Well, good evening and you're welcome to the business edition of PM Express. This evening, we're turning attention to the energy sector. And the economists will always say, all other things being equal, from tomorrow, ECG would have new managers in trying to manage that company. Government plan was to ensure that they bring in private hands to try and address the challenges facing the sector. But this evening, we're trying to find out, would that be the answer or the solution to the challenges facing the country when it comes to power distribution or not? I will bring in some experts to join me to have the discussion, for them to share their thoughts with us, whether that is the way to go or there are still hidden problems that we need to address before the problem facing the sector will be addressed or solved. My name is George Yafi. I'm your host for this evening, the business edition of PM Express. We turn our attention to the energy sector in terms of power distribution. We'll be right back after this break. So there was some flips giving you a fair idea of the new company that will be taking over the management of the electricity company of Ghana effective March 1. That is just tomorrow. So in terms of managing ECG, the new owners are on board. That is the Public Distribution Services Company, actually, that is actually going to manage ECG. And I've been doing this discussion here in studio with me. Mr. Safwa is here with me, an energy expert, of course, to have some discussion on this. And we'll be getting your thought very soon on whether this is the way to go or not in terms of addressing all those problems when it comes to power distribution in the country. But we've been trying to, earlier on, we engaged the spokesperson for PDS, that is Fred Asmeni, in trying to get a deeper understanding of their workings, what would this mean and all those things. Let's first watch this interview, we get back in studio and we'll set the ball rolling. Let me first ask you, finally, this marriage has been consummated, as was said here. What are you bringing on board?
Well, we're bringing on board, first of all, a lot of investment to transform the electric distribution utility in Ghana. Secondly, we're also bringing a lot of expertise. Our technical partner, Meralco, as you're aware, has been in this industry for 115 years. So they're bringing a lot of expertise. Thirdly, we hope to greatly improve the level of customer service and efficiency and collection rates in the electric distribution utility in the southern distribution zone of Ghana.
What does your whole contract entails? I heard you've been presented with bulk license, this license. I was confused. Per your contract, what are you going to do? Is it a management contract, or what are you going to do, PDS?
Well, our relationship with ECG and the government of Ghana in respect of this transaction is not a takeover. We're not taking over the electricity corporation or electricity company of Ghana. We're rather leasing its assets for a period of 20 years. And in return for leasing those assets, we'll be making payments to the government of Ghana in the form of a lease payment. But our prime mover in terms of this transaction is to change the performance culture in the distribution utility so that it will inure to the benefit of all Ghanaians and ensure a more efficient distribution of electricity in Ghana.
You've seen us having the financial muscle as we speak right now. Have you made the necessary financial commitment to aid this takeover that we have?
Yes, we have. The minimum investment contribution that we are required to make under the transaction agreement is $500 million US dollars over a period of the transaction agreement is $580 million. We are committed to put in far more money than that to ensure a turnaround of the fortunes of the distribution utility.
Behind the scenes, what we were hearing was about certain commitment from the other sector regulators in terms of guarantee. As we speak today, the PRC has issued a statement. Are you okay with that, or you would have wished that the levels was reviewed to actually help you with the investment you're bringing on board?
Well, we made a regulatory commission. Now, prior to our submission, we had also given a very clear indication when we submitted our documents as part of the bid process, the level of tariff that we thought efficiently. Those proposals are with the Public Utility Regulatory Commission, and as soon as they make a final determination, we'll be happy to work with it.
They have actually announced this morning that the tariff levels are not going to be changed, and they're going to be stick the same until July that they review the levels. Are you okay with that?
Well, it seems to us they don't have the full suite of information that they require to make the full determination of tariffs, because as you can imagine, the distribution utility is only one part of the variables that PURC needs to make a tariff determination. There are other factors that are required which has to come from government, and those have not come. But because we are very confident, because we are very, very confident that we can work with Ghana and turn around the utility, we're happy in the interim to support the announcement made by the Public Utilities Regulatory Commission this morning, as you tell me.
One would say that for you as a private firm, these levels are critical in securing funding to carry out your operations. Now that it hadn't gone your way and your extrapolations and the projections that you've done, wouldn't that be a problem for you?
Well, I'm not sure about your speculation that it hasn't gone our way. I mean, we are business people. We're very innovative. We are very creative. The key thing is we want to make a commitment to the people of Ghana that no matter what the circumstances, we'll be able to use our creativity, innovation, experience to meet the targets that we have been set. The bottom line really is to transform the customer experience in this country and create a utility that is very effective in terms of reliability and availability of supply of electricity.
So Fred Asumani, he speaks for PDS, the new managers of ECG. From tomorrow, expect some change in colors. You've seen those ads rolling out there in terms of the new entity that is going to manage ECG. We have Kojo Pokosafwa, he's an energy expert, and he's going to join me to have a discussion on whether this is going to be the solution to the problems that has bedeviled ECG over the years. Good evening, sir, and thank you so much for joining us on PM Express. Let me first get your thoughts about this whole process about trying to privatize or bring on board a private entity to manage the company. I mean, when I hear the story, so I hear these things going on, it reminds me of Aka Veterans Rant. I hope I'm not getting it wrong.
Okay, good evening and good evening to your viewers. To understand what has happened or what is happening, which the final stage of it is the taken over by PDS of ECG. You need to understand the genesis of this.
Yeah.
This whole thing started when Ghana signed a compact. Okay, the Millennium Challenge Compact between the United States of Ghana, between the United States and Ghana.
Yeah.
In that compact, which is an agreement between two nations, one of the key elements of that compact was that Ghana needs to transform its energy sector. The compact did not only address ECG, it also addressed NECO, it also addressed the other areas of electricity, which is also the IPP side, capacity building, okay? So where we are now, it is not just a matter of it started today.
Yeah.
It's a process, and it's enshrined in an agreement. And in that agreement, there are specific obligations that has to be done by government, by the concessionaire that comes on board, and MIDA is also supposed to play a role. We all heard that this process was a bit slowed because government was not able to be sure when the MPP government came in. They wanted to be sure that the terms that existed was right. There was agitation by the
workers,
the Public Union Workers Union, the Public Utility Workers Union. There was agitation by some of the people within the country that, look, what was on the table was not sufficient. So the government then, the MPP government that had come in, looked at what existed. The concession was for 25 years. The MPP government reduced it to 20 years. They had now done, the workers didn't know what was going to happen to them. They were going to be guaranteed their job for 5 years, and after 5 years, there could be redundancy. The government looked at it and said, no, we're not going to do this anymore. We're going to have everybody be transferred over from ECG to PDS, and there is no 5 years minimum. Your job is guaranteed. Now, that is the process that we've now culminated to this point. Then you talk of the investment that PDS talk of
over $500 million,
$580 million. Under the compact, which basically whatever PDS does is basically has to be backed by the agreement, which is the US government is also putting its money towards this. US government is spending about $450 million towards this compact. So the 520 million that, or 580 million that PDS is to spend is being backed by another 420 million from the Millennium Compact through MIDA.
Let's get back and try and understand this thing. That have we really appreciated the problem with ECG? Is it a personal problem? Is it an infrastructure challenge? Or it's a capital issue? Well, so if MIDA or the corporate has come on board and said that, okay, we want to help restructure ECG. We are pumping in about $400 million or a little over $400 million. And because of that, we want new managers to manage that entity. Because I also hear that when it comes to personnel, we are one of the finest personnel or human resource in the power sector in this country.
Well, it's not about personnel. You have to look at the holistic thing. No, it's not necessary. It's a holistic. It's holistic.
Everything.
Because basically, if you look at the 4 areas which the compact and PDS is to address, they are to address 4 main areas: modernization of ECG operations, commercial loss reduction, technical loss reduction, and outage reduction.
Can we take these things one by one?
I'll get there.
All right.
I'll get there. The 4 main areas, and I'll repeat to you, okay? They are modernization of ECG operations, reduction of technical losses, reduction of commercial losses, and reduction of outages. Now, what you see ECG, and every day there's a cry that there isn't the necessary investment by government to basically invest money to modernize ECG's operation. ECG is not making money. Government, as the shareholder, was not putting the requisite money. Because they're not
paying.
Well,
they sell power to government institutions. They are not paying.
Well, that's right. So what we're looking at is that, yes, you might have the staff there, but do they have the requisite modernized equipment to work? Then the question is, no, they don't. Then you realize that the machines which the technical, the engineers use in doing the work, the transformers, all the stuff that they use, are they modernized? No, they are not. So there are technical losses. Are there smart metering to be able to detect when people bypass the meter, illegal connections? Okay, do they have that investment? No, they don't. Then you come up to outages. Okay, what is causing outages? The poles, the wiring, what are some of the challenges? Are the investment there? So those are the areas that these 2 components, MIDA with its $450 million, PDS with its $580 together almost close to $1 billion within 5 years to now inject and basically invest in these 5 areas. So you're going to see that the PDS company, the staff of PDS, everybody that was transferred from ECG to PDS will have to go through training. We're going to have up-to-date current equipment to work with. Then with this equipment, you and I as customers will be able to see that our lives are better because one, we are having better services from PDS, and then we are going to have, when there's an outage, you should be able to have a computer that sits somewhere to determine that, oh, Kwaku's light is off or Kwame Mensah's light is off. Those are some of the investments that they're going to make.
Mr. Safa, I'll argue that, and again, the skeptics would actually say that I remember Aqua turns around. Okay. And where are we today in terms of management contract? Okay. If the problem is a capital injection thing, and we all admit that the power distribution sector, they're one of the fine brains, can we securitize their assets, raise money, put it in, and tell ourselves that going forward, everyone that we sell power to, they have to pay. Bring in the required investment, work on all those things. Well, and therefore we don't quote need a PDS to come on board.
Well, there is so many ways of killing a cat, as the saying goes. One of the ways that it could have gone is what you mentioned. The other way it could have gone is what we have now. Let's stick to what we have. The Aquabitan scenario is there. But you see, you always know where you're going if you know where you're coming from. Some of us are very passionate about this process because we fought for the private sector participation in ECG. We or I did not think that if you put money into ECG without innovation, without people coming in with better thinking. Bear in mind, Morocco has done this thing in Philippines for over 100 years. They have experience outside Ghana.
Turning around.
So, no, I don't even know about that. But my point is that, look.
But did you know about them before this thing came up?
No, I only read about them when they
do you think that they have what it takes?
Oh, yes. For what they deal with. No, see, Morocco, if you read about them, the population size of what they deal with in Philippines, Ghana is a chicken chain compared to what they deal with. Their operations in the Philippines is far bigger than our operations in Ghana.
They are the technical partners in this whole consortium.
No, they are the They are the consortium.
Okay.
There is a Ghanaian participation where they have 51% of the consortium. But Morocco is the consortium, and there are Ghanaian investors that partner Morocco. So the whole PDS is 49% owned by the Morocco and its partners, and then there's also another company that also has the same percentage in there, and then the Ghanaian investors has 51%. But the people who are bringing in the innovation and the technology is Morocco. They partner GE Electric of America to do all sort of wonders in the Philippines. Everybody can read about them and they will know. But my challenge is not about what the Morocco is not bringing a whole lot of staff from Philippines into Ghana. They are using the Ghanaian staff to train them, to give them the requisite equipment to now change around the company. That is where the challenge is.
Again, I want to look at this whole argument about us getting the right solution to the problem and whether it's a management contract issue that will deal with this problem or we're getting it wrong. And sorry to bring back the Ghana water situation, that we brought partners on board to help manage the company. Today, I believe that when we look at Ghana water, those problems are still there. Have we gotten it right as in the approach in dealing with ECG's problems? So that going forward, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, we'll see that that was the approach for us to go in dealing with the problems.
Okay, there are clear distinctions. There are so many differences between the Aquabitan Ghana water scenario and the PDS. No, it's not a model. Let's clear something. PDS came on board through a compact. NIDA, which is the government organization that manages the compact, is also part of this process. Now, as part of the monitoring of what PDS does, in the Aquabitan instance, we didn't have a whole institution that was monitoring. We didn't have a law which binds them and set out the schematic areas where they have to invest. In this case, the new agreement that was done, in this case, there's a yearly review. Every year, there's going to be a review. So on 1st March 2020, there's going the difference between Ghana Water and Aquaviton, there was Ghana Water which gave a management contract to Aquaviton, who took over Ghana Water. In this case, there's ECG. As we speak now, as of tomorrow, restructured ECG is still going to be there. They are going to be the asset owners who have leased their assets to PDS. Their responsibility is on them to make sure, like landlords, and you are the tenant, that every year they will come around to make sure that what I gave my assets to you, you are doing what you have pledged that you are going to do. So the necessary investment, which is 100 million a year for 500 years, restructured ECG is going to make sure with MEDA, who are binded by contract from the Americans, is to make sure that the Americans are putting their $450 million in. MEDA is managing that money, and where they are investing it, PDS is to match that money and make that investment. So in year one, if MEDA has spent that money, but PDS has not spent that money, it's erratic. Then ECG, who is the asset owner, will start reading the red flags and say, look, I gave my assets to you. You are supposed to make these investments over the yearly period. You've not made the first year investment. So we might give them a slap on the wrist and let them go on. Hopefully they will make that investment. Then year two, then year three. This process cannot go past 5 years if PDS is not up to the program, it's not up to the work. You see, on Aquaviton, certain things were not in place the way it's in place in this PDS.
So you believe that the structures are there right now to ensure that we don't get it wrong?
Yes, and it's enshrined in law.
So we'll take a short break, and we'll be right back, and we're focusing more on whether the environment is good for them to ensure. What are the measures in place to ensure that indeed PDS lives up to expectation in providing what they have to do? This is PM Express. We're focusing on the management takeover of ECG. Is that the approach in addressing the problems facing power distribution in this country? Welcome to PM Express, the business edition. Today, we turn our attention to the power sector as the process kickstarts, or as we start to bring in partners to manage ECG, that is PDS. We're asking ourselves whether this is the best solution in dealing with the problems facing the energy sector, or even ECG. Could there have been a better approach, or this whole management contract thing is the way to go? Since Afua is here with me, he is an energy expert. He's sharing his thought with us as in the best approach to go and whether that would address the problem. Welcome back, sir, and thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. But before you continue, let me correct something. It's not a management contract.
Okay.
It's a concession.
Concession.
It's two different approach.
Help me, because again, I was at a program yesterday, and I was a lot of things where I've read a document, but I asked myself that are we playing with words or playing with words or jargon?
Management contract.
So help me the difference in having a concessionaire, management contract, and then management takeover. Help me out.
Now, a concessionaire is you have assets and you have staff. What you do is that as a company, which is ECG, now says, I am giving my assets, which staff is part of the company's assets as well. So they are giving their assets on concession to another company to run it for 20 years. That is concession. So I'm giving you a concession. My assets, take my assets, and you pay me a concessionary fee for using my assets for 20 years. That's a concession. So ECG is still there, but they've basically given all their assets to another company, which is Public Power Distribution Service Company, which are the Miracle Consortium, to manage that assets for 20 years. A management contract is where ECG now partners another company to come in and work with ECG to run, where the management of ECG is now done by another company, like what we have in Aquaviton when they came in and they were people managing Ghana Water. Two different things. One is that ECG does not have anything to do with the day-to-day of what public distribution, the Power Distribution Service Company is doing. Power Distribution Service Company, a whole different entity, all assets being given to them to run. Management contract, another company comes in and work within the first company. So if PDS was a management contract, they would work within ECG. So they will come in and they will take maybe the managing director of ECG, the CFO of ECG, technical director, maintenance director, and they will now come and they will dictate what it has. In this case, on Monday, if you go to the ECG, the Vaco House, ECG is still there. ECG MD, Mr. Boachapia, is still there. All the staff, the skeletal staff of ECG.
Again, I remember I put this question to the Energy Minister, Peter Amewu, and he sought to downplay that. Isn't that a time bomb? Breed confusion, because who am I answering to?
Who answering to?
The workers.
Which workers? There are two different companies.
Okay.
My dear, let me explain, please. ECG, let's say they have 1,000 workers.
Okay.
950 of the ECG workers has been transferred or moved
to power distribution
to
services.
the power distribution service. They now work for a new company. You remember the agitation that if I move, what happens? Do I now? And the minister, then Honorable Jakon, now said that look, what the government has decided is that you move over with all your benefits. If you have 2 years of retirement, you move all that benefits to the new company. So you're not going to start from scratch. So all your benefits, all your accumulated leave, everything you carry it from ECG to the new company. You no longer work for ECG. Restructured ECG is still there. They will keep 50. Per example, if there was 1,000 staff and 950 moved to PDS, restructured ECG would only have 50 workers. They work for ECG with the managing director, Mr. Boachapia, with its staff. They have a different role because in the agreement that you saw that was being shared, there is an agreement between ECG and PDS, which is the concessionaire agreement, which give ECG certain roles. ECG can walk into PDS to inspect certain things if they give them prior notice that, look, we are coming for inspection. So it's more of not a management role, which you talk of, because management contract is when they will come in and Mr. Boachapia from tomorrow will no longer be the MD. A white man from Philippines will be the MD. They will take CFO. They will take technical director. They will take maintenance. They will take HR. That is different from what is happening now.
Everyone at ECG, do they appreciate this whole restructuring of the institution? Because, I mean, I've read the documents, I have done, and every day when I'm exposed to something new, I'm confused.
Okay, initially they didn't. There was a mistrust. When 2017, myself, Richard, Nyoma, Kwame Kofi Bento, Kwame Mujantua, we all worked within a group called Koseka, and we had a lot of meetings between Pohu, Mr. Nyantechi and his staff and his people and all that. There was a lot of mistrust because nobody believed some of these things. They thought they were not consulted, there wasn't enough things done. But along the line, they seemed to come around and appreciate what was going on. Then what even made them more comfortable is the MD that the Power Distribution Service appointed, Reverend
William Hartman.
Thank you.
Some people say he helped transform ECG.
Well, yes. So that straight away told the workers of ECG that, look, somebody that we've worked with, who we all believe that was one of the best MDs
and I remember,
of ECG.
I hope I don't get it wrong, that his time when he was asked or reassigned, the workers demonstrated.